you the totals though. This is the total of our total budget, or these percentages are based off our total budget, not just new revenue coming in. So this, let me take a look really quick here.
And again, it's more of a curiosity than it is.
No, sure. And actually, the impact fees that we're anticipating in 22, according to this, these percentages is 22.4 million, but already we're anticipating to be over 24 this year and had $22 million budgeted. So there will be some changes there, but with that, depending on what else in the budget changes, those percentages can remain comparable. Property taxes is typically our highest revenue source, followed by highway users fund. So the order of these is the same, but the percentages may vary slightly. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? So Christine, one question I have is, you know, we keep just the conversation about maintenance and when we split it out in those pie charts. So are we getting any closer to having, I think I saw it quickly, did it have, so it's capital maintenance, maybe this is on the wheel that you showed there that we were, or the pie chart, I should say, not the wheel.
Sorry, yeah, let me go back to that. So the this is only the capital budget. So it is not yep, so this is only capital maintenance. So if you look, if the budget for maintenance for the following year, and these percentages are only in relation to the capital budget. So if I add in the entire maintenance budget, divide that by, oh, that's not right. Jeez Louise. It's about 37% in total maintenance costs. If I add the 11.7 with the 38.8 projected budget for 22 and divide it by the 137.6 million in total revenue.
Okay, sorry. So I was just writing those down really quick. So we've got the 11.7 that's in capital, that's maintenance that's done by capital. And then there was 38.8 that's normal maintenance, right? Or by the maintenance crew?
Well, I mean, that includes $10 million in fleet expenses. That's why that number is so hard to come up with, because attributing all of those numbers, because there's fleet costs that happen annually, and then there's the fleet purchases that happen. So to just say, this is what we spend on maintenance is more of a difficult number to come to without parsing out each activity within each department.
Okay, so we're still not really looking at that, I guess, through that lens to say maintenance is costing this much compared to how much is going towards new capacity projects.
Well, on the capital maintenance side, on the capital side we are, but on the operational side with the maintenance, we could just lump everything together at the $38.8 million in operational expense. But I feel that that's a slightly unfair depiction of that, in the sense that that includes fleet equipment and vehicles and repairs and stuff related to non-maintenance activities, traffic and other departments.
But it's the best number we've got, because that right now the district isn't tracking that separate, or you have it, you just would have to spend more time to get it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Right. Yeah, I'd have to pull all the expenses by cost code And at this time, that's not something that I specifically track.
Sure. And so I guess what I'm understanding though, and it's not, the district isn't really interested in tracking that either, the true maintenance costs compared to what's going to expansion.
Well, we track it
In a way that we could look at it year over year. Sorry to interrupt there.
I mean, I'd say that we do track it. It's just not presented. It's not something that is an analysis that's currently done. We track everything by a phase and cost type, so we can pull all those costs together. But as far as pulling out and doing those analyses, I can pull them out, and I've done them for how much we spend on chip seal at each crew and stuff like that. But to go through and figure out labor and burden for each maintenance activity versus equipment purchase, like that's just not the level of detail that I go into from an analytical standpoint. But there is a report that I know that's ran for estimated overall cost of maintenance per mile. And I don't know what goes into that calculation because I don't do it. But I do know that there is a calculation of that done.
I mean, it seems like that's one way to get at it. And we've talked about it a bit with this committee, that it'd be to make sure that we're tracking what the maintenance percentage is of ACHD's budget, so we can see how that is changing. And because I think it does influence the decisions we make on CIP and expansion projects, and understanding, just where we're headed and the trend that's happening there. From what you said on the maintenance at 38.8 million, was that it did include fleet from other departments. So is another way to get to that by just subtracting those that are not maintenance fleet.
Right. And so as you look at, if you look in the budget book, under the fleet services department, it will show we're buying all of these vehicles. So it would be going through all of those line items and then the actual expenditures and saying, okay, well, this truck was for traffic and this truck was for this and this truck was for environmental, and pulling out all of those costs and then any associated maintenance work order type stuff and pulling those out. So then you're really getting into granular and like payroll type expenses. And I don't know the materiality of all of that, but yeah. At some point it's just not a cost code where I can just pull a report, because I can typically do those fairly easily, but it's when we get into all of the nuances related to it.
Right. Or unless just cost coding that non-maintenance vehicles were coded differently or a subcode. So, okay, I guess that's a conversation to have at maybe a different level, but it is something I'm interested in. I'm not sure what the rest of the committee, how anyone else.
Yeah, as far as changing how we cost code stuff, that's a way bigger conversation from our auditing perspective and the financial tracking side.
Yeah.
I wish we could just add them for whatever we wanted, but it's a lot bigger piece of that.
Thank you. I think you get the gist of what the intent is. I've just an easier way to get to it. And yeah.
Sure.
Any other comments from the rest of the committee on that topic? Okay, thank you, Christine.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're moving on to item number 3, which is the integrated 5-year work plan with Christy Inselman.
Good afternoon. Let me pull my Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah, I've got 2. Well, I guess I'm seeing your notes too.
I don't have notes. think it's just showing your next screen.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry, your
always
next
have to-
slide. Yeah, right.
Usually
Sorry,
if I swap, then it plays nice.
there you go.
Is that
Thank-
better?
Yep.
Okay, good. For quite a few of you, I'll try to go through these relatively quickly. I know a lot of this you guys already know, but we'll start there. So my role at Ada County Highway District is to take the integrated 5-year work plan through its process every single year. And so this first slide is just how the planning framework works and how all of the other agencies work together. So the counties and city and county create their comprehensive plan, which establishes the land use vision for the county. Those go into the communities in motion, ACHG strategic plan, which also feeds into each of our foundational documents, like our asset management 8A plan, bike master plan, neighborhood plans, and our CIP, which all filter into the integration of the 5-year work plan. What is the 5-year work plan? So it integrates the building maintenance and operation of the road system into one place. It implements those long range plans that we talked about, and it reports on that effort. It also informs our capital budgets, and it creates transparency of what those planned activities are going to be within each of the categories. And we coordinate this with internally and with agency partners. Here's just a brief snippet of what the integrated 5-year work plan programs consist of. We have our bridges program, which is our minor and major bridges, capital maintenance program, capital investment, which is our cooperative. This is where our intersections, our main intersection roadways are listed in this portion. We have our community programs, which is broken out into bikeways, community projects, safe routes to school, and safe sidewalks, which that safe routes to school and safe sidewalks is the VRT, and I can talk about that more. Our environmental programs and our traffic safety and ops. So the numbers on the left hand of the screen represent the adopted 21-25 integrated 5-year work plan. So there were a total of 409 projects and programs, and $974 million were programmed in that one. So that goes into the commission directed capital allocation methodology. So we met with our commission on March 3rd to review the capital methodology, capital maintenance methodology. Sorry, this is like my 6th meeting today. I have to keep switching gears. So apologize if I stumble over a little bit. So the number one is meeting ACHG's programming obligations, which is ADA environmental compliance. And those are implemented through every project that we do. We have the VRF, ballot commitments, and vehicle registration fee is a VRF, which is our safe routes to school and congestion relief. And then we have our matching the impact fee collections with required general funds. Our second is our primary focus in safety and maintenance. So that signals, crossing, safety projects that have documented needs, and our asset management, so our capital maintenance and bridges. And then our secondary focus, the last one, is our system enhancements. So it's neighborhood plan, bike master plan projects that aren't funded through the vehicle registration fee, and our non-impact fee eligible capital improvement plan projects. So the commission targets, this is where they're sitting as of right now. So with VRF commitments between the school safety and congestion relief, they're each at 16.5 million as the target. Impact fees with that 22 to 24 million as the annual target, with the 5-year being 114. And on the left-hand side, I've put the little arrows there that show where each of these fall within the capital maintenance or the capital methodology. And so then we get into the primary focus, which is our maintenance. We do a 1% annual growth factor, and that target is at 139 million. And that's over the 5 years. And then bridges, we'd hope to increase that to 4 million annually, which would put it at 20 million over the 5 years. And then our traffic safety and ops is staying steady at 5 million for the 5-year target. Our community projects, and that is a minimum of 5% of our overall capital budget. And it's a minimum of 15.3 million. And then our capital improvement, or our CIP, which is it was previously, when we adopted the new CIP, obviously there's more forecasted needs, so the target increased. And it's a target for us to reach. It would be very difficult for us to get there, but it's a target we'd like to reach eventually. There were some questions from our commission, and so we had this slide in there as well as some additional information, where there was a question about how the percentage of the program that goes toward bike and ped enhancements. And so we provided this pie chart that kind of shows just a generalized breakout. So this is based on the adopted 21-25 integrated 5-year work plan. Obviously, the maintenance and safety takes up the largest piece of the pie. And so the remaining half, and it's a fairly balanced. So the other half is our vehicular capacity enhancements and then our bike and ped. So with our complete streets program, we end up doing quite a bit of bike and ped enhancements with even those capital improvement projects. And so about 21% of the overall 5-year work plan is bike and ped, 30% is vehicle capacity, and 49% is our maintenance and safety. And then our priority corridors, I threw this in here because that's also something we want your guys' input on. This is currently all of the priority corridors that we have identified. The stars are the areas that we have completed those segments. We have quite a few programmed. I need to update these. I apologize. I did not get all of these updates. Some of these numbers are going to increase because we did add some additional priority corridors from the Southwest Boise area in the last update. And we'll add probably a few more in this next update. And I know this is a lot to look at, and I'm happy to send my PowerPoint presentation over to Stacy to share with you guys as well. And then this is just a mapped representation of where we're at with those priority corridors. The blue represents the corridors that are complete. The pink are the ones that are programmed. And some of these are under construction, especially like in the Southwest. We have the Eagle is under construction, Maple Grove is under construction. And then the yellow, I don't have an icon to the side, but the yellow area is a priority area. So there may be some additional ones that we add into this in this next update. And then the purple, if you can see it, when I switch this over to this new format, it changed all my colors, and so they look a little off. So the unfunded are the purple. And then this is just a snapshot of where we are at in the 5-year work plan process. The first 3 boxes there, as you can see, are grayed out. So that's the work that's been completed to date. So we've met with the commission most recently on March 3rd to talk about our programming targets. And the next time we will meet with the commission will be on April 7th to go through the project prioritization. So we do an outreach to our partner agencies, including the cities, the county, the school districts, and we added Boise State University. And this year we added Valley Regional Transit to one of those as one of our partner agencies. Every agency has provided their list of prioritization projects. And so we also did a public outreach when we did our first public open house back in February and asked for additional projects from the public. That closed on Friday, March 12th. So we are in the process now of compiling everything and getting everything into our system and prioritized. So that's where we're at. So we'll go back to the commission to present those findings on April 7th. And as you can see, it's a circle because we go through this process every single year. The big day for us, obviously, is the 5-year work plan adoption hearing, which is slated for September 22nd. And again, I'll share this if you guys have any questions. So then I have a repeat of what our next steps are, just in a more condensed format. So again, we go on the 7th. When we do the initial draft, our target date is around July 14th, which will open up our public comment period on that initial draft. And it's during that time that we will have our second public open house. And that comment period will run approximately July 14th through August 20th. And do you have any questions? Sorry if I went through that quickly.
Karen,
Yeah,
it's Caleb.
thanks, Caleb. Go ahead.
Christy, can you, and like you said, you do this every year, so I feel almost embarrassed to ask the question, but
Oh, you're fine.
The actual release of the initial draft, is that before the work session with your commission, or is it after? And that timeline for the city to provide comments, is that the same time as the public comment, or is that If you can kind of walk me through that again, I
Yep.
forget how that works.
No, you are good. So we coordinate it so it basically happens at the same time. Is generally we have a work session with the commission on either that Wednesday or Thursday, and we release it to the public on the same day. So we go to them with the initial draft to as kind of the, here it is. And then generally speaking, we will have our open house like the next day or within that a week of sharing it with the commission. And then, yes, this time period, the July 14th, when we release the initial draft, that is a time frame for the cities as well to review and provide comment.
So just a quick follow-up then. So the initial draft really is the same draft that is being considered for adoption, just any changes may be made through that process. There's not another draft there's not an adoption draft, if you will, that's released and reviewed. It's just the initial draft.
Well, we do, when we get to the adoption hearing, we will release the one that we're looking to seek adoption on. So there will be the final draft that we send out, and it is also available to the public. But yes, the initial draft is basically, this is what we're proposing. If there's any changes or things, comments, questions, concerns, additions, subtractions, whatever it is, that's the time to let us know. And then if we do make any changes, we make those changes. And then we also put forward the final draft for adoptions based on those comments.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Christy, I've got one. Looking at the commission targets,
Mhm.
that and between that one and then the pie chart that followed it. So I guess I was trying to do some quick math on how the bike ped portion came out to 21%. Looking at the slide prior, because
Well, it's the 21% is based on on all programs, everything programmed in the integrated 5-year work plan. So if we're doing a capital improvement project to widen a section of roadway to 5 lanes, then we're giving ourselves basically credit for putting in bike and ped facilities because of our complete streets policy.
Okay.
So we're putting it, that may not have had sidewalk before, it may not have had a crossing before, it may not have had bike lanes before. We're identifying that it's not just to community programs. We're not saying 21% of our budget or 21% of our 5-year work plan are community programs projects. We're saying when we're enhancing the system as a whole, 21% of that goes into bike and ped enhancements.
great, because we haven't had that dialed in really probably that well on the
Right.
ones that came out of capital maintenance before. So this is wrapping all of that in.
Yep. Yeah. And it obviously can vary because, when I gave this presentation before, we also had an example of like 10 Mile, Ustick to McMillan. 15% of that project was bike and ped enhancements is how that one worked out because of the crossings and ADA and the sidewalk we were adding. When you're throwing all of the community programs into the mix, that percentage tends to go up for the entire program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions from anyone? Thank you, Christy, for your 6th meeting or presentation today.
Sorry. And I have another one right after this, so it's so much fun.
Okay, great. Then we'll just keep moving along to our item number 4, which is the capital improvement plan overview with a new face on this for us with Austin Miller then.
Can everyone see the screen over here all right?
I don't know if you want to go to presentation mode just so it might be a little larger. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Is that better for you?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Karen. As you mentioned, along with Mr. Steed, I myself am new to the group, this being my first CICAC meeting. Again, my name is Austin Miller, and I am replacing Mitch Skiles as our impact fee administrator. I'm responsible for updating the capital improvements plan in our impact fee ordinance. Seeing I'm not the only new face here today, I wanted to start with just a real early high-level overview of what our CIP is, how it relates to impact fees and the update process. First things first, has anyone noticed that we're growing? So now what? Fortunately, state statute gives ACHD the authority to adopt an impact fee ordinance and assess impact fees to help ensure development is paying a proportionate share of costs needed to improve the transportation system. Before we can assess the impact fees, we need to have a plan that determines how much funding is needed and how it will be spent. That is our CIP. And then we'll need to determine each development's proportionate share, our impact fee ordinance. However, this process isn't just done flippantly. We put a lot of work, careful consideration, and take input from folks such as yourselves. As members of the CICAC, you serve an important role in the establishment of the CIP and our impact fee program. With your input, in coordination with the comprehensive plans from all the cities, the county itself, Compass, and the adopted plans we have, the master street map, etc. We work to identify the planned arterial roadways and intersections needed to serve the projected growth for the next 20 years through our CIP, and then help establish funding through our impact fee ordinance. A brief little summary of last year's. In August 2020, the ACHD Commission reviewed and approved our current CIP and impact fee ordinance. However, it wasn't just that. It was a full 18-month-long process in order to get us there. Let me be clear, right now, we're not kicking off the next 18 months. This is just a notice of what to expect in the coming years. ACHD ordinance does require that we update the CIP and impact fee ordinance a minimum of every 4 years. Based on this 2020 timeline, if we apply that to our 2024 adoption date, it means we'll get started in a year and a half, roughly 2 years from now. During the review process, I will be updating the CICAC regularly and seeking your input. In these meetings, you'll be briefed on staff's approach, any commission directives we've been given. We'll give you status updates as to where we're at in the process. You'll be consulted on any system assumptions we're making, make sure we're all staying on the same page, as well as you'll be asked to review and provide input on the draft as well. I do know the City of Boise, prior to our approval of the last CIP, had submitted a request for a more in-depth discussion on the foundational elements of the CIP and our impact fee ordinance. That is great. Thank you for that. Let us know any ideas you may have, proposed solutions on how you guys feel to best serve the county. I don't have all the answers. Please keep the ideas in mind as we work towards our next CIP revision. And we will make sure to have those conversations at the beginning of the process next time. Then impact fees. As I mentioned before, the CIP is what we're planning on doing. Impact fees are how. They're how we ensure development is paying for the proportionate share. Our impact fee ordinance uses info from the CIP to establish a cost per vehicle mile traveled in the PM peak hour. This is one of several factors used to calculate our impact fees. We also have designated land use categories and the estimated average vehicle trip generation in the PM peak hour and pass by trip rates based on the latest ITE trip generation manual. We factor in average trip length for each of the land uses and a network adjustment factor to exclude portions of each vehicle trip that is not impact fee eligible. So those on a state highway, collector, local streets, those are not factored in. And then this formula generates a rate for each land use, and that rate is applied to each new development application that comes in throughout the county, and the fees are due prior to the issuance of the building permit. ACHD then has 10 years to use these fees towards projects listed as impact fee eligible in our CIP. With that, I don't have any action items today, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I do also know my email address is included in the document Stacy sent out. So if you have any ideas in the coming months, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Austin. Any questions from the committee? So Austin, I have one. I thought that the commission, based on the budget adoption last fall, had some CIP issues that they wanted to discuss coming up in the next month or so, maybe?
They do, yes. So I've been working in the background, providing sort of data based on our current CIP, based on the scenarios that our commission had outlined. I've been providing that data to our executive team for their brief of our commission. I have, at this time, have not been given any direction to change anything. However, obviously we'll see how that plays out in the upcoming meetings.
But so Austin, could you, I'm trying to remember what all was requested by the commission. Can you give us a summary of what's being discussed right now or what you're analyzing?
So I have a list, one second. I had written it down after the last commission meeting as to what all of the questions were. So let me quick little summary. So a lot of them, I won't go through every specific road segment and intersection because that'll be very time consuming. Yeah. But in the general gist of it, we were looking at roads that the current CIP calls to be 5 lanes. However, our commission felt we'd better be being a 3-lane roadway while still preserving the right-of-way for a future 5-lane beyond the 20-year window for our CIP. Included in that are mid-mile roundabouts, any of the multi-lane roundabouts at an arterial intersection. We will initially build it as a single lane and then similarly still preserve for a multi-lane in the future as warranted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, Christy, glad that you're still here. I guess I was trying to just figure out for our next meeting or what might be on the docket coming up next. So would the draft 5-year work plan come back to this group, or do you know what we might be looking at next? And Austin, sorry, I know that you'd probably be guiding us more. So I know that both of you have involvement there.
Karen, yes, we and typically we do that each year is we go to all of our advisory committees once the draft is ready to present that initial draft, to get feedback, let you know the comment period. So yes, we will come back to this group likely in July to talk about this again. It's not your only shot, I promise.
That's fine. I think our challenge is, you know, we get into the meat of this the year that we're updating, and then, you know, we kind of meet quarterly and look at the budget and the 5-year work plan. But at least for me, it's definitely difficult to kind of dig back to where we were on the CIP conversations and what projects maybe we're trying to track to make sure that they're going through timely, you know, and how our input can be meaningful to the process. And sometimes meeting quarterly and just getting an update, it's hard to connect some of those dots.
Mm-hmm. Totally understand. When is Stacy, do they have a meeting in around July or August for the draft?
We can certainly schedule that. We don't have the year long because we kind of try to be nimble of when we need to meet and not just have meetings to have meetings. But yes, July. Sounds great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so, and on that, Stacy, I think for me, I think if we could schedule a little bit further out is helpful for my schedule. And I know at least one other person on the committee that they probably need a little more notice to clear their schedule. So trying to meet that flexibility between being nimble, but having it far enough out that people have can clear their schedule or not have a conflict. And Walter, Steve, sorry, I didn't give you an opportunity if you wanted to introduce yourself and give us any little background of how you've come to be part of this group.
Thank you, ma'am. I am Walter Steed. I live in Meridian. I've lived full-time in Meridian since 2018, having moved here from Moscow and prior to that, Lewiston. Primary reason for moving here, like a lot of other people, is kids and grandkids. We have quite a few in the valley. So we came down full-time, expressing interest in transportation because I'd been on the Transportation Commission in Moscow quite a while back for 9 years, 4 as chair before moving to the city council. I got encouraged to apply to the Meridian Transportation Commission, of which I'm currently chair. When we had an opening for a citizen representative to this group from Meridian, I talked to the mayor, and ultimately he and the council made the appointment, and I'm really glad to join you. Sitting here trying to absorb it all and play catch up and learn the terminology and how it all fits together will be quite a challenge. I only know a couple of faces on today, one being Caleb, of course, and the other being Commissioner Hanson. So I'll look forward to getting familiar with all of you and hope to make meaningful contributions.
Thank you. And thank you for volunteering to be part of this. I would encourage you that anytime you have a question, feel free, especially, I know the terminology at times we can slow down on our acronyms and be better explaining that. But just, in general, at this committee, all of us can usually use a refresher on the different aspects of it. So please feel free to ask any question that you have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, with that, that's all we had on our agenda. Did anyone else have any other comments or anything? Mike, did you?
No, I would just,
You were getting ready for a motion.
that's true.
And just so we are going to be scheduling a work session with the commission on March 31st for a lot of those topics that you were talking with Austin about. So you might want to turn into that.
Great. Okay, well, if the committee doesn't have any other items, Mr. Wardle.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
Second, thank you, Peter. So I'm all in favor.
Oh, yes.
Aye.
Great. So 2:49, a little ahead of schedule. Thank you all for zooming in for this meeting, and we'll see you in July unless something comes up before then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.